Ladies and gentlemen, we have our first guest for their second time on the podcast. That's Dr. Paul Saladino. What's going on?
What's up, man? How are you?
I'm great. When did you get back into Texas?
Yesterday, and I'm realizing that I had these grandiose plans of bringing you raw testicle that we were going to eat on this podcast, and I forgot it because I was rushing a little bit. I wanted to get a workout before the podcast here at your gym, and I left the raw testicle in the fridge. Next time.
I would love to do a video or a podcast one time where I try all the things that you eat.
I love it.
Because I was watching videos of you eating. I mean, the testicle is massive.
It's huge. It's the size of, I don't even know what to liken it to. It's like 2 tennis balls put together. It's pretty big.
Do you eat the whole thing?
If I'm really feeling spicy, I will.
And do you have trouble when you're in Costa Rica sourcing testicle or organs?
No, there's actually 2 really good farms in Costa Rica. One of them is called Hacienda del Sur, but the place I get it from is called Grassfed, Costa Rica. There's a guy named Diego who's out of San Jose, and they have a farm on the Guanacaste Peninsula, which is where I live at the southern end of the Guanacaste Peninsula. And he gets me whatever I want, basically. I got intestine the other day. I got spleen, heart, liver, testicle in my fridge. It's all there. And grass-fed meat.
After our last podcast, I tried eating the liver. I didn't swallow it. I tried to chew it. I struggled hard.
And then did you spit it out or did you swallow it?
I swallowed it. I swallowed it. And I had 2 guys in the warehouse also try it. They struggled more than me. But I think what I'm going to do, and you recommended it, freeze it, cut it up in little like pea-sized, bites, and then swallow it whole.
Or you can even thaw it and swallow it whole. If you freeze it and you cut it up into small pieces, they're going to be rigid and they can actually abrade the esophagus a little bit. So you got to be a little careful with that. Unless you get them really small, like the size of a pill. I think it's better to freeze it, thaw it, have it be thawed and soft, and then you can just take it with a swig of water and it'll go right down. And this is a hack, man. Increasing organs in the diet is a huge deal.
I need to get back on it. But in today's podcast, in today's episode, I do want to talk about seed oils.
Yeah.
I went down a rabbit hole after our last episode where it was more high-level animal-based diet, and we touched on seed oils a little bit and linoleic acid. I do want to get to that. But before we do, I do want to talk more about hunting and you getting into hunting. I saw a video on Instagram a few weeks ago. You were at Rome Ranch and you were drinking the warm, fresh blood of a turkey. What is the benefit of the blood?
Blood is amazing. You think about what's in blood, what's carried in blood? Hormones, immune cells, immune proteins, immunoglobulins, cofactors, vitamins. Vitamin D travels in blood. Red blood cells are in blood, which are full of iron, heme iron. And then there's all the serum and all these other things. And blood is kind of the epitome of this concept that fascinates me, which is that we don't really fully understand human nutrition. We think about human nutrition. I think there's like 2 or 3 levels people think about this. Macros. The first level, the kindergarten level, is how much protein, how much fat, how many carbohydrates am I getting? And that's the start. That's dipping your toe in nutrition. You can modify your macros and see changes in your body. But then the next level is micronutrients, and you're getting into things like vitamins and minerals. And so like kindergarten is macros, maybe 3rd or 4th grade is micronutrients that we're aware of, vitamins and minerals, like common minerals, magnesium, zinc, maybe things like iron, and then maybe common vitamins like vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin C, vitamin E, maybe a couple of B vitamins. Then you go on another level and you graduate maybe 6th grade or middle school or high school, and you're starting to think about like really fine-tuned micronutrients, things like vitamin K2 versus vitamin K1, things like biotin, things like riboflavin or folate, different forms of the B vitamins that occur in plants versus animals, and how oftentimes animal forms of these vitamins are more bioidentical, which means they're more bioavailable. And then you can look at more minerals, things like selenium or things like manganese, or things like zinc and copper, and the balance. And also, again, in the mirrored animal versus plant realms or the sourcing of these minerals, the fact that a lot of these minerals, in fact, I would say the majority of these minerals are much more bioavailable in animal foods than plant foods because they're not chelated. So we're thinking along this realm and we're evolving our understanding of nutrition. And then you get into like college level nutrition. This is obviously all a metaphor. And you're thinking, there's even stuff that is beyond vitamins and minerals, things like peptides. People might have heard of BPC 157 or other peptides, which are small protein molecules of less than 50 amino acids that have amazing functions in the human body. Then you get to like graduate school level nutrition. You're thinking there's probably nutritional factors in blood, in liver, in heart, in testicles that we don't even know about. We don't even name them. They're definitely not in the USDA database, so they don't show up on Chronometer or any of these other health trackers. And that's, I think, the limitations of nutrition is people will start and say, I'm going to put my diet into MyFitnessPal or Chronometer. And they'll say, look, I'm getting all these things and I'm deficient in these things. But a lot of these apps don't even have vitamin K2 on them. Like the USDA doesn't even include vitamin K2, which we know, as an example, is a critical form of vitamin K. There's K1 and K2, and I'll just illustrate this. K1 is phyloquinone. K2 is a series of compounds called menaquinones, with MK4 being the most bioactive probably. And I don't think we talked about this in the last podcast. There's a large observational study called the Rotterdam study, and they looked at intakes of vitamin K2 and vitamin K1 in the population. And they divided the population up into 3 groups depending on how much vitamin K2 they got. We call this tertiles. So the lowest group, the middle group, and the top group. And I think the top group was around 35 micrograms of vitamin K2 a day. And this is observational, so we can't draw causative inference. But it was so clear that the group that had the most vitamin K2 had the lowest rates of heart disease and the lowest rates of calcific aortic sclerosis, so calcification of the aortic valve. And vitamin K2 is really only found in animal foods. So what they're saying with this observational study, or the hypothesis that you can draw from that, is, wait a minute, everybody, not just, colloquially, quote unquote, everyone thinks, or a lot of people in the media or that consume mainstream media believe that animal foods are bad for us. But here's a nutrient that's essentially only found in animal foods, and I'll qualify that in a moment. That is associated, again, it's not causative, but it's a real strong association for which the most compelling hypothesis by far is that this vitamin is essential for the movement of calcium in the human body. And if you don't have enough vitamin K2 from animal foods, you're going to develop more heart disease and more calcification of the aortic valve. Those things fly in the face of our modern sort of paradigm of human nutrition and what's good and what's bad. And so that's just the beginning of the iceberg. But the K2 is not even in the USDA database. And the end of that story is that vitamin K1 from plants, there's no association, meaning that no matter how much vitamin K1 people were getting, there was no decrease in cardiovascular disease and no decrease in calcific aortic sclerosis, suggesting that our body's not that good at converting K1 to K2. Well, that sounds like a really important nutrient to have in the USDA database, but people won't even know about that nutrient if they're just using Chronometer. So this is a long-winded answer to your question of what's the benefits of drinking blood. So all the things I enumerated, immune cells, cofactors, hormones, vitamin D, iron, other vitamins, other things that travel in the blood, plus probably a bunch of stuff we don't even know about. And of all the organs, blood is kind of the sleeper. People don't think about like, how do you drink blood or how do you get blood? People can eat liver and they can eat heart and they can eat spleen or testicle, but it's hard to get blood. So when I was at Rome Ranch, which is this amazing regenerative farm out here in Fredericksburg, Texas, it was at Thanksgiving and we were harvesting turkey. So I got to like grab the turkey myself and kind of like thank the turkey for its life and then kill the turkey myself and then cut the throat and drink the blood fresh from the turkey. And it was delicious.
Is it warm?
It was warm, bro. It came straight out of the turkey.
My God, I remember watching that video. I showed my wife. I was like, you got to see this. This is on another level. But it's funny because you talk about this graduate level of nutrition.
Yeah.
I went to school for nutrition and I was really let down by the educational system from which I was learning. So I went the nutrition route, but I was also studying with dietetics and dietetics route as well. And I arrived at college and all my professors were 100 plus pounds overweight. Instantly, I was like, something's not right here. And they never promoted performance nutrition. It was always disease, diabetes, cardiovascular disease. And I remember going through these 4 years thinking something's not right with what we're learning and what I'm doing. And I remember being a freshman in college and learning that these healthy fats were really good for me.
Seed oils.
And at night, what I would do before going to bed is I'd pour a tablespoon of canola oil and I would drink it. Because I was trying to gain weight. I was trying to buff up. And my professors were telling me these oils are healthy fats. And I look back now thinking, what the hell was I doing? What was I thinking? But it's that entry level where I think a lot of people get there. And a lot of times it's macros. It's body composition, manipulating macronutrients to reach a certain level of body fat or body composition. But that's the shallow level of thinking. There's so much depth within it.
It's endless. And that's why I love nutrition. And the connections between nutrition and human health are astounding. And again, this is the type of thing that doesn't get taught in medical school either. I had a similar experience. When I went to medical school, I would say that like 90% of my professors were obese, sickly, pale, not healthy, not friendly all the time. Physicians I worked with, right, on rotations, residents. I worked with very few individuals who were healthy, even overtly, even by just the way they looked, not to say the way they treated us or the way they treated other people, which is a whole separate story of like, soap operas in hospitals. So yeah, this goes very deep. And in medical school, so I went to the University of Arizona for my MD, and then I went to the University of Washington for residency. And great institutions, never was nutritional biochemistry talked about with regard to any disease. It's disease management with pharmaceuticals. That's what we do, which is, there's a place for that, but it's completely different than what I got interested in.
Yeah, it blows my mind. See, I've been watching you on social media, and I know you're really into bow hunting.
Yeah.
And open fire cooking.
Yeah.
I kind of see my life like when I have more free time after some time in business opens up, and after I have this baby coming up this summer, I've always wanted to get into hunting. And in the beginning, it was, from central Pennsylvania, a lot of rifle. But for me, like if I want to hunt, I want to bow hunt. And I want to cook that meat on an open fire. Do you do a lot of hunting in Costa Rica, a lot of hunting in Texas, or where are you at on that?
So since moving to Costa Rica about a year ago, I've done a lot less hunting. In fact, I haven't done any. It's been a shift from Texas life to beach surfing life, which is another passion of mine. But so I haven't hunted at all in Costa Rica. I don't even think you can hunt legally in Costa Rica. I'm thinking about bringing the bow just because I like the endeavor. I'm very moderate bow hunter. I'm not an expert at all, but I enjoy it. And it's just, there's such a focus that comes with it. It's very satisfying. So it's a really interesting way to hunt animals. I've hunted with a rifle also at Rome Ranch, and completely different experience. The rifle was, we went up into a blind. There was a feeder. The feeder comes on. The deer come in. The rifle is sighted in 120 yards. Exhale, calm, boom, the deer's down. And it's the same experience when I walk up to the deer and I think, wow, I'm really grateful for this sacrifice, this animal. And this, every time I hunt and kill an animal, I have this immediate sense that I don't get a whole lot else in my life, where it's just this profound sense of respect for this process of life and death, and this idea that everything must, in order for something to live, something else must die. So you see that viscerally when you're hunting. I think it's a very good reminder for humans. When I'm going to the store, I went to Whole Foods yesterday. I just got into Texas from Costa Rica, and I went to the meat counter, and I got some ribeyes, and I got some sirloin flap steaks. And I'm separated from that animal. I don't get to look that animal in the eye like I did with a turkey or like I do with a deer that I've killed. And that's an important thing, I think, for humans to do. A lot of people don't want to do that. And that's why I think it's so important, because it reminds you, hey, in order for me to live and thrive, and I firmly believe that animal foods are the key. They're at the center. They're not the only piece, but they're a huge centerpiece for humans thriving. We must eat those foods. So every time we eat an animal food, we should be grateful. And I believe we should use that as this reminder to be a good human. And I think the more that we can look at animals that we are killing and know those animals, we'll have so much more of that reminder, that memory that's fresh in our minds. And we'll think, wow, like I'm so grateful to get to live this life with this successful hunting around me. It's a spiritual thing.